collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on the programme this week, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the E.I.T, came to Nicosia this week with an E.I.T Awareness Day.
Our goal is, of course, creating jobs and growth for Europe. But we are not only about creating the next generation of millionaires. We want really benefit for the citizens and benefit for a society that is healthier, that tackles climate change and that operates in a more sustainable way.
One of the Institute's thematic sectors is health.
Telemedicine, which is also an issue now in Cyprus for the remote areas. That's not only an issue for Cyprus, that's an issue for all the member states.
The EU Commission's Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture was in town to address the conference.
Children today are still taught the way I was taught at school 40 years ago. There's something wrong with that because the world has changed enormously. So we have to teach children not the specific subjects, but to help them to learn how to learn.
And the former EU Commissioner for Education, during whose tenure the E.I.T came of age, discusses some of the difficulties that were overcome.
We noticed that in Europe, people are afraid of failure. It's not like in the States that they fail once, twice, 3 times, and they make it. In Europe, even the bankers, if you go to ask for a credit, if they know that you have failed once, they won't give it to you. In the States, you may have failed 3 times and they are welcoming you because they say by experience, by failure, you learn. And therefore, the chances of succeeding the 4th time are better. So we had to change all this.
The E.I.T Awareness Day took place this week in Nicosia. Joining us on the programme first is Alice Fisher, who is E.I.T Head of Unit Stakeholder Relations and Communications. Now, that's quite a mouthful, Alice, but tell us a little bit about what, not just you do, but what this whole idea of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology does.
Well, the E.I.T is 10 years old, and it was created against the backdrop that Europe is doing well with research, is doing well with business, is also doing well with education, and still the Europe is lagging behind when it comes to innovation. So against this backdrop, the E.I.T was created. We are based in Budapest. And we are basically an up-and-running innovation machine. We bring all partners around one table, which are businesses, research institutions, and education institutions, and we equip young people with what they need in order to become real innovators.
So could we say that you're like an umbrella organisation that brings the spokes in from all the different areas where they need to collaborate in order to create new ideas?
I would slightly disagree, if I may. We are working actually along themes. We have themes that are very topical. We are working on climate change, on solutions with regards to digitization, urban mobility, manufacturing, healthy food, lifestyle, so forth and so on. And along these themes, we have so-called innovation communities, and they bring all these partners together.
Yes, but you introduce them to each other, surely?
Sure. They're not working in splendid isolations. They're actually collaborating a lot with each other. And there is a lot they have in common also. And they're working together simply to achieve those goals.
How do you measure how and if they achieve those goals and then move on to new goals?
So we are a European body. We are funded by European taxpayers' money, as are the innovation communities, and you can well imagine there's quite a machinery behind. So they have to deliver on key performance indicators, so how many jobs they have created, how much funds they have raised, how many students they have educated, and this is quite, a task they have to deliver, and we're actually nailing them down quite a bit.
So the money comes from the EU taxpayer, and presumably they therefore benefit with the end products.
Yes, our goal is, of course, creating jobs and growth for Europe. But we are not only about creating the next generation of millionaires. We want really benefit for the citizens and benefit for a society that is healthier, that tackles climate change, and that operates in a more sustainable way.
That is Alice Fischer, the E.I.T. Head of Unit Stakeholder Relations and Communications. And also with me is one of the speakers at that Awareness Day event, and she is Katalin Saloki, Public Affairs Lead at E.I.T. Health. What does E.I.T. Health do?
E.I.T. Health is trying to support the member states to achieve active aging, healthy aging. We are trying to help the member states to put more effort in health innovation, in forms of like 3 pillars of activities: education, innovation, and business creation. And also what we do within the E.I.T. Health is to try to bring closer those countries which have more innovative ecosystems and those countries which are less developed in terms of innovation, and trying to bring them closer to together, trying to bring them to work together in different projects.
So that sounds to me like you're taking best practice where it happens and, in a sense, helping to pass it on to, let's say, less mature places.
On one hand, we do that. On the other hand, it's very important to emphasize that it's not only just one way around, just to bring the best practices, but it's also to open the door for those ideas that are there in those less developed countries. But the ideas are harder to actually get to the level where it raises attention for decision makers, for investment funds, for venture capitals. And that's what we are trying to do. We have startup accelerators. We have different kind of competitions along the innovation journey. So from the ideas for talents through really startups that are already incorporated and that are already working, for example, with a prototype or something, then we are trying to help them actually to achieve something on their respective level, and then they can go forward.
And I imagine that the ideas are somewhat different according to the society that the creative thinkers actually live in, because the problems in one country may be nothing like the problems in another.
That's pretty true. We have very, very different creative ideas. On the other hand, when it comes to health issues, there are different issues that we are tackling around the world, diabetes, cancer, for example, just to mention those two. Those are the things that every one of us is tackling. Or, for example, how to use AI in health issues. Those are all the things that we are, no matter where you live, you face the same things. Telemedicine, which is also an issue now in Cyprus for the remote areas. That's not only an issue for Cyprus, that's an issue for all the member states. More people are living in the cities, less people are living in the rural areas, and then you have to somehow get them to access the healthcare system. So that's an issue again for everybody. It's not only for one member state.
But telemedicine has been rolled out with great success in some European countries. I'm thinking of Denmark particularly, and they are leaders in this.
Yeah, or Sweden, that's true, but it's not so developed in some other regions. On one hand, on the other hand, there are new solutions for telemedicine as well, and it's also an issue whether it's subsidized by the national health systems or not, how to actually put those together when it comes to profit or when it comes to the interest of every single citizen of the European member states.
Where does health go in the next, let's say, 10 years, do you think, bearing in mind the work that's going on at E.I.T. at the moment in this field?
Actually, I'm very positive in this. There are many developments in terms of health, very new technologies. In my view, the issue is more how we can use those technologies, how we can implement them in the everyday life. There are many, many solutions which help the healthcare people, the healthcare professionals. The question is how we can make them use it and how we can actually finance it. But I'm very positive that there will be really some big achievements in terms of the big diseases. I'm pretty sure there are many new solutions for cancer patients, for diabetes, for coronary, which is one of the biggest causes of deaths here in Cyprus as well. So there are, I think, a lot of developments, and it will continue because it's a very innovative field. So I'm sure that with the help of the big data, for example, that we can collect data and analyze it much faster, so we can achieve a lot more in shorter time.
And the other thing, of course, is if we look at the patient's side of things, it's quite important, isn't it, that the patient pool, if you like, is also technologically advanced enough to do their bit, because again I'm thinking of some of the schemes like half a dozen people who need physiotherapy tune in on their laptops at home all together and have a class with a physiotherapist at a health centre that could be, 100 miles away.
Exactly, and that's what E.I.T is for. We have many of these new solutions where startups apply, where they try to learn, try to share their ideas, and these are exactly those kind of ideas. It's not only for healthcare professionals, but also for patients, for making their lives easier, for being more conscious of their health, actually of their health situation, and how to improve their own health without actually getting to a doctor. So indeed, and that's also for the future. And I think it's very important in general for the human to understand the working of their body and to be responsible towards your body, because that really helps the doctors later on.
That is Katalin Zaloki, who is Public Affairs Lead at E.I.T Health, and it's coming our way, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
Themis Christophidou is Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission, and at that E.I.T Awareness Day she gave a welcoming speech. When I spoke to her afterwards, she explained why the Commission is so committed to the innovation sector.
The European Commission is very committed to supporting the European Union's innovation sector, and this is very visible in the programs we're designing and in the amount of funding that we're allocating to these programs. I'm here today because I have joined an event of the European Innovation and Technology Institute, the E.I.T. The institute is based in Budapest and has as its vocation to support universities, researchers and businesses into working together in a knowledge triangle and promoting Europe's technology and innovation sectors. Cyprus is a key partner of this institute, is participating in a lot of its activities, and I'm very happy today that in my homeland I see so much activity and respect for the work the Cypriot researchers are doing in this field.
And I think that the Commission is also pretty committed to improving the presence of women in this sector.
Absolutely. We are actively supporting the participation of women. The proof is that we have a board of directors of the E.I.T, which has 60% women members in the board. We have more than half of the staff in the institute being female, and we are pursuing an active policy of gender balance.
Now, as Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, of course, along with women, the big thing for the Commission for several years with all this youth unemployment has been to try and get young people into careers. How does that pan into the E.I.T thing?
Well, the issue of youth employment and unemployment is for us a big priority. I am also responsible for the Erasmus program, and we're doing a lot of work into supporting young people through this program. We have a targeted policy for mobility of young people, whether they are at university, at school, in vocational training, in an NGO, in grassroots organizations. So at all levels, we're working into helping young people acquire the skills for tomorrow, try to have traineeships or volunteering schemes which will help them enrich their CVs and give them all the possibilities to find a better job for tomorrow.
And of course, one of the important things is that you look ahead to where those job opportunities will be in, say, 10 years' time, because the employment market is moving on all the time. So how do you keep ahead of that and put people in the direction of where they won't need to retrain, they will be trained in what's needed in 10 years' time?
You're absolutely right, and it's a very valid point. You know, the experts tell us that the children that are starting primary school today do not know which types of jobs will exist when they come out of university. So it's very important to change the way education systems are structured. The children today are still taught the way I was taught at school 40 years ago. There's something wrong with that because the world has changed enormously. So we have to teach the children not the specific subjects, but to help them to learn how to learn. We have to teach them in transversal ways. We have to teach them in project ways. They have to become more flexible and agile in the way they learn, the way they see the world, and the career opportunities that will come across them that they cannot even imagine now. They will only be able to grab them if they have been trained to be open-minded and flexible.
I have to therefore bring you to the Cyprus education system, because you've just mentioned 40 years ago, but we are not changing fast enough. So it's also about teacher training, isn't it? We need a change of mentality.
Teachers are very important. In the Erasmus program, we have added a lot of focus in helping teachers through mobility schemes to travel across Europe and to exchange with their colleagues from other countries. This is what we call peer learning, and is a very good way to bring teachers together and to see how others are doing, to take from others what they do best, to maybe realize that there's some things that they're doing fine and they should just do more of it. Mobility and exchanges across Europe is fundamental to this.
Themis Christofidou, Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
Well, talking there to Themis Christofidou, Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission, and we're now joined by our former EU Commissioner for exactly all those things, Androula Vassiliou. Androula was talking to Themis actually about education, which I know is something you and I have talked about probably for the last 10 years, I don't know. And she was talking about the fact that we need to change the way we educate our children in order to prepare them for the jobs that will be available in the future. And I know that's something you've always said, is that we must educate for the job opportunities.
Exactly. And the most important is to use methods and methodology in teaching, which will give the opportunity to the young people to have a critical mind and to research to find knowledge. It's, I think, the times when information and knowledge was a ready thing which you give to your student or to your pupil is gone. So now they have to learn how, through the modern technology, to find knowledge and information and to judge which information is the right one and which is irrelevant.
And to keep updating because things are changing so fast.
Exactly. Even me now, that I am in this conference and I have gone through the initial stages of the E.I.T. and I see, for example, how things are changing by the times. So you have to keep up with it. And this needs, of course, to educate also and change the mindset of the teachers themselves, because unless they understand what the student needs and the pupil, he cannot transmit this to the students. They would think, probably the student would think, oh, he's lazy, he doesn't tell us what we should know. No, by encouraging the children to go themselves to use the modern technology to find the information and to judge himself what is relevant and what is not relevant is the modern method of teaching.
Now, if we go back to the beginning of the E.I.T., I think it was on your watch as European Commissioner,
yes.
You were very hot on education, innovation, technology. So take us back a bit to the situation when this all started to be born.
Yes. Now, I remember very correctly when President Barroso called me to his office to tell me that I will be entrusted with the portfolio of education. He said, yes, but I am thinking of not giving you the European Institute of Technology and Innovation because I am not satisfied from the first 2 years what has been done by the education team. I said, please, President, leave it to me, and I will try to make it success. And indeed, I made it one of my priorities. But I soon realized that when I was in debates or in touch with the European parliamentarians, or indeed with the ministers responsible for research and competition and all this, they didn't know what the E.I.T. is and what was the purpose of the E.I.T. So I had to really struggle to make them understand the benefits of the E.I.T. Because what we had in Europe, excellent academic institutions, very good researchers, but we lacked innovation. We lacked the entrepreneurial spirit. And for the first time, education came into the knowledge triangle. So by getting all the actors to work together, they could build what is needed in Europe, the innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. Because we noticed that in Europe, people are afraid of failure. It's not like in the States, they fail once, twice, 3 times, and they make it. In Europe, even the bankers, if you go to ask for a credit, they would, if they know that you have failed once, they won't give it to you. In the States, you may have failed 3 times, and they are welcoming you, because they say, by experience, by failure, you learn. And therefore, the chances of succeeding the 4th time are better. So we had to change all this. And I'm pleased to say that now it found its course. Just to remind you that we started with a budget originally of 300 million.
Oh, but you got that up big time.
Yes, 2.4 billion. And we started another 6 innovation communities, the knowledge innovation communities. And now I understand tomorrow will be created and the budget will even go up. But it made a lot of difference. And what people do not understand is that what we give to the knowledge innovation communities is 25% of their budget. The rest they have to find from external sources. local governments, research companies, education institutions, and especially business people. So 600 million, I heard just now, they get from external sources, which is good. You encourage really the entrepreneurial spirit. The other thing is that we had to make a very serious choice regarding the knowledge innovation communities. In which sectors do we need this? So we started originally with climate change, energy, and digital field. Fine, these are still relevant, but then we had to add another 6. So we went to very, very important fields which are societal challenges of Europe: health and healthy aging. Very important, because you know that we are suffering from demographic...
the aging population, it's
exactly.
a problem everywhere.
Yes. Now, so health and healthy aging is very important. Food. With the increase of the population and the incoming influxes of immigrants and so on, food also is important for other continents. So we had to find ways of new productions, more efficient productions.
And healthier productions.
Raw materials. Urban mobility. It is one of the most difficult topics that we have to face. And we can see it in Nicosia, for example, in Limassol, in all our cities, especially also in big cities, where to move around is a problem. We had to find ways of helping urban mobility. So all these new KICs are now almost in maturity, and they are going to create 2 more KICs. I don't know. I have a suspicion, and I am very pleased, but I cannot say for certain what these new innovation communities will be. The other thing that I wanted to say is that lack of knowledge about the Institute was not only among the parliamentarians in there, but also among the people.
And you needed the people to know if you wanted the businessmen on board?
And especially in the new member states. So we were thinking of how we can help. Okay, excellence was the primary criterion. But we created the regional innovation schemes, which give the chance to regions where they are not connected with the E.I.T. to start a relationship with one of the KICs and gradually develop their activities in order to qualify to become a co-location center. And these regional innovation schemes have started producing results. And in Cyprus, I am very pleased to say that we have already one of these regional innovation schemes in the field of climate change. It's a partnership between the University of Technology in Limassol, it's Chrysalis LEAP, and the Cyprus Energy Agency. So there is a partnership between these 3, and already we see the results of how training, coaching, assisting young entrepreneurs is producing results.
Brilliant stuff. That is Androula Vassiliou, former First Lady, former European Commissioner for Education, Culture, Multilingualism and Youth. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.